I know somebody who's been fired before because of actresses. What kind of experience have you guys had with this?
I have a lot of experience with this.
Right.
And it's very difficult because you're fighting potentially two different needs. There's the needs of the film and the needs of your mortgage. There's a decision there. There's vanity can be involved in the actor or the actress's motivation, or it can be a perception of how he or she feels that they are seen by their audience, a question of age. I've worked with actresses who see me pissing about with a light and say, "What are you doing?" And they say, "Well, I don't care." You know, and I say, "I love you." You know, but they have a certain feel about the part, and to them it really doesn't matter if they go into a double or a triple chin at some point when they're in a big scene. It really doesn't matter.
I would have expected the opposite almost.
Certain
but certain actors or actresses, and others are freaked by it. And they can be very good. And then maybe the happy medium in which what they really care about is that they look good in the sense that they look good within the character. You know, that they're not trying to be,
which makes sense,
themselves in all. They've got to look the same on Saturday Night Live, and they've got to look the same on the film, which is the most difficult.
Ever been fired for that?
I've been threatened with it, except nobody would replace me. I heard afterwards.
Interesting.
No, I mean they didn't want the hassle. I mean, I know they told me afterwards. They said, "No, you had it. You can keep it."
I'm pretty careful with how I photograph actresses with the eye light and.
But never canned.
Oh no! In fact, you know, and it's interesting because I did a movie with Meg Ryan playing the wife of Tim Hutton, who was having an affair with Kristen Bell. Now, Meg's supposed to look, she's got a root showing, and just, you know, she's not supposed to look as desirable and young as Kristen. And yet, I took a lot of care with her close-ups, a lot. And
because you were told to?
No.
It's called survival.
Yeah.
Right. And you know, and I wanted her, you know, I'm of a certain age. I know how, you know, I look when I don't have certain light, and the older I've gotten, the more care I think I've taken. I mean, I think when I was really young and it was all about the style, and I was much more cavalier, I think, and now I'm, you know, I know where they're coming from, and they have to survive, as do we.
Well, they have sort of a brand to uphold too, you know, right? Now, you talked a little bit about Kiefer. Anything else?
We had an actress who had a mole, and she was, you know, it was fun on the set, you know. But she was very proud of it, and she was quite happy having it photographed. But the studio decided they did not want to live with it, and of course it was out of my hands at that point. But when we first saw the show, we were like, that's very interesting. Where's it gone? And they.
Oh, you had nothing. You didn't even know they removed it.
No, they spent a lot of money secretly removing it, and because this does go on, and you know, we're moving into a realm where enormous amounts of retouching is being done. You know,
something to say about an actor or an actress of a certain age wishing to be retouched. There's something good about it. Is why on earth, in our culture, should they be shuffled off into retirement when they're still brilliant actors? You know, they are wonderful actors, wonderful actresses, and this retouching can actually prolong their acting career, and that's good. They can also do characters. They can act them. They may not look quite as young, but now we can help them in character. So without it being a matter of vanity, it can become a matter of performance, that both the lighting and the technology can preserve a career for and maybe another decade. And in the case of, say, Meryl Streep, why on earth not? So that'll help, and we'll all need to understand that and be careful that some of the retouching techniques now are just too extreme. They look plasticky.
Totally. But the other thing, I mean, I would rather do that than have to face some just horrendous facelifts that I've run.
You mean physical surgeries?
Oh, unbelievable. With people who have all the money in the world, and it's kind of shocking, you know, it's desperate, and this is another problem of Hollywood, and if...
Maybe they won't feel the need to do that now if...
Less need.
They're going to have to start putting it in their contracts, probably.
Yeah, right. A certain X amount of digital retouching.
It's been tremendously helpful to me to understand Photoshop and to see in my still photography what I can do at my own pace and in my own time with an image, and then be able to take that request, as it were, into a DI and then be able to work in that realm.
That brings up something else. How far are you allowed to get into post these days? I mean, is it changing as we speak? And it's probably per project too, and
per studio, per person.
Yeah. Right. But are you finding that you're being kept out more, or
not if you'll do it for free?
No, of course.
The problem really is, will they pay you? The studios are using the traditional way of finishing a film, in which you know there's a few reels done. You go in every 3 days to see what's going on, as a cost basis for the DI. The DI is now so complicated and so necessary, but often they're refusing to pay.
Or half rate.
So what do you do? I mean, to protect your vision.
Well, I mean, in the television level, there was never a question that you were doing it for free.
Right.
And then it was just a question of time, because it was always beyond the workday. So I would go in at 4 and 5 in the morning sometimes, and the colorists would agree to come in early in order to look at key shots for a sequence. And that would happen, you know, on a weekly basis. We were delivering 24 shows a year, so there's a lot of time given for free to do that.
What I'm able to do on the next film I'm going to do is I'm actually going to time my dailies, and that information will be retained for the first time in my career, so that when we go to the DI, they will apply my dailies timing to the cut on keyframes, and the film will be at least timed to dailies level, which is, so we're not starting all over again.
I think that's why I was drawn to Photoshop in the beginning, is because once the digital cameras became to replace the Polaroids, and you realized there was so much more control for defining a look, even for your own benefit. And of course now it goes further than that, building a book at its very simplest, and then ultimately working with the DIT to embed a look in metadata that then will flow through the system and carry through to the end. But it's on you to know that knowledge, to understand the process, to work through it with the key people that are going to take care of you. And
to convince the powers that be that this is a good and necessary part of the process. It's a new thing, but it's
not always an easy thing to do, is it?
Not always, but not necessarily that difficult. I mean, if you are persuasive on the floor, you can also be persuasive in the office. You know, the point is not of confrontation, but of collaboration.
Right. So now, it's rare that we have a woman on our cast here. You know, it's a male-dominated field. Do you feel that your path to becoming the success you are is different for females, or did you have to do anything different? You know what I'm getting at?
Oh, yeah. This area I don't love to talk about because I don't want to be discouraging to any women.
No, we want to encourage.
You really have to be dedicated. It can mean compromises in terms of your family life, which, you know, everybody has to deal with. But, I mean, besides, you know, we all have to be on the road for many months, but in terms of child rearing, you know, you better figure out a way if you want to have kids to do it. And you know, you have to be as competitive as the guys, and it's still a double standard. I mean, the guys just go off. I mean, they may ruin their marriages, but whatever.
And a man's got to do what he's got to do.
Well, that's right. So, you know, there's that, and it's not that common to see women on large Hollywood movies. I mean, it's just, except for Ellen Kuras, it's really non-existent. And that's a problem, you know, because there is definitely a glass ceiling. And
you think it's changing?
No, I really don't.
I'd be curious to know what you recommend. Film school, internship, or the Roger Corman route, or is that all out the window now? At least maybe to get to your level.
I think the internet is a much bigger player now than it didn't exist probably certainly when I was starting out. Right. But the idea that you can sit at your laptop and check in on a discussion like this and spend 90 minutes and absorb it. the knowledge is out there on the net extraordinarily. On the other hand, a film school provides you with the framework of teams, and the friendships that you form there. Quite often you'll find that people met at film school and now 40 years later they're still working together, you know. Yes. And
that's what I have seen, a lot of collaborations, and you know, which is a great thing, that they have the loyalty to stay with it.
And you're not going to go through it again. I mean, I will work to the ends of the earth to get my team back because I don't want to have to start again with somebody else operating for me or a gaffer, you know. And so
that level of trust helps you do great work, also helps you to sleep, and move faster. But and also there's a question of safety. I know my life has been meticulously preserved by a key grip who I've been working with for over 20 years. Even the smallest equipment can break a foot, and even the safest lights can catch fire. And until you're on a stage where it catches fire, you don't really think about the exit, but once it's happened, you do. I never go on a stage now without finding out where the exits are, and are they clear, and are they unlocked.
My gaffer was electrocuted right beside me, and nobody understood what was going on, and yet the generator started shorting out. You know, 700 amp generator. He could hear it in his brain just because he touched two things. He bent a grip stand on his way to the ground, and an extra picked him up and put him up again in a crowded room, not understanding what was going on. And thank God one of the electricians unplugged the light, and he was saved. But it's
so
just
I'm saying that there is also stuff like that. Have a crane, put a Technicrane, a 50-foot Technicrane, and start running it fast. You've got 6 guys pushing that, and you've got now a remote head, not 2 people up there. But if that loses,
it's easy to lose sight of the safety, right?
And it's a big deal. All these things are part of this teamwork and working on a crew.
Which you won't learn on the internet. It's getting back to what we were talking about.
The problem always is, where do you get technique? How do you learn? If you, I mean, where are you going to actually?
It's probably a combination. I mean, it seems like you need a basic amount of education, you know, just to get you to a certain level.
It has been the tremendous help to me to have read quite a few books, so that when I met certain directors, I could have an intelligent conversation, which isn't.
I wasn't even talking about that level of education, but that is a good point.
But you're collaborating with some of the greatest minds of our generation. Right. What are you going to be, some schmuck then? I mean, that you don't know who Shakespeare was?
You got to relate. Otherwise, it's going to be a difficult partnership, it seems like, right?
And also, there are films that happened before Indiana Jones. You know, there is a film history. There's something that is the basis of our craft and our art. And I've done the occasional seminar at film schools, and I say, well, what are your favorite films? I'm talking to privileged film students whose parents are paying a lot of money for 3 or 4 years. They do not know who Francois Truffaut. They may have heard about Hitchcock. I mean, but I mean, truly, what's going on? It's like...
This is what I'm afraid might be sort of getting lost with people who are coming out of the internet instead of out of film school, and not getting the hands-on internships and things like that.
Absolutely.
So I think that is the route to take, but it's obviously changing. Well, you know, we all know people that are now have become sort of famous or well-known, and actually created some careers out of just out of their internet personas and things like that. But you know, where's that going to go? I doubt it'll get them to your level. You know what I mean?
It'll evolve into something, and it's not that shooting film is a particularly important thing. It's something that we love. We're passionate about it.
Right.
And how you get there can be any number of ways, but it's not that we need very many. I mean, if there are 9,000 people online, and they all have a fantasy that they're going to shoot a movie, I'm sorry.
Well, there's more than that, I hate to tell you.
Yeah, I know, you know it. I mean, that's just one example from last weekend. But I'm sorry that it's not going to happen. There isn't that much product, and we don't even need it. There's only 24 hours in the day.
Sure, but they got to have their dreams, you know. And there is talent out there that would never have been discovered unless it was for the internet.
when we were at film school, we never saw film history because in London we couldn't get prints. And I came to America after I graduated and went to University in Philadelphia, and they were screening prints from the vaults to do with un-American activity. There were a series of films made by the studios to appease the McCarthy era. And I was amazed by the access that was possible in America. And of course now we have DVDs, so there is no excuse for not taking the top 100 and watching them as a commitment to your craft to understand where it's coming from. And
but that's the thing, as a commitment to the craft. It really doesn't matter whether you shoot on a DSLR or a Panavision 65mm. What's important is to understand why these shots are made and how they cut together, and how the lighting can change the mood, and how the cutting can change the light for the, I mean, continuity and narrative and all this. It's such a fascinating, wonderful thing. You can do it more easily as a self-study now than you ever could before. Because you can just, and I recommend it, get a DVD or stream something, turn the sound off and go shot to shot on a famous sequence of your favorite film and see how that works. That's what I did with a 16mm print. Ingmar Bergman just hand to, I mean, just shot to shot in a little, that was analog. So digital, what the hell's the difference? The idea is what's necessary.
That's what I often tell first-time directors, you know, turn the sound off, you know, see how, you know, as important as their stories are, you know, because a lot of them, again, as you said, they come out of writing or some other area, editing perhaps, and then they know editing, but if they're just writers, they have absolutely no idea how to block.
No, I found plenty of editors who rise to the directing front and are completely at a loss. They have no idea at all until we actually positioned a couple of cameras. They sat at the monitor and it began to look like their edit suite, and then they kind of felt comfortable. But to get to that point, not a clue. Absolutely not a clue.
But you know, you might, for example, say, or I could say, a great way to learn to be a director is to become an actor, and to see what that means.
That was one of my questions, was what have you learned from actors or other crew members that, you know, maybe a film student wouldn't think he would ever learn? You know, I'm never going to learn anything from an actor. I'm the director of photography.
I have so much respect for actors. I just get transformed in watching the risks they take, in finding their personas and finding their characters in each role. I mean, it's just, it's a real gift for me.
Dialing it in, take after take. I mean, the subtleties, I've seen some people just, okay, take it up a notch. And
also the interesting thing that an actor will not think about something too much, but will just feel it. And that's also a model to any of us who we can quaintly call ourselves artists, that we don't think about it too much, have enough background, have seen enough film, fallen in love with enough people, read enough books, lived enough life so that you can make a decision without thinking about it, and it's right. You know, but you can't become a director, I think, or a cinematographer without having experience, and that experience isn't just about your HD and your Zacuto finder, with the greatest respect. It's about everything, so much, and to learn. That's more important than any film school, and then to have a passion about what you want to do, and then bring that to the table.